All right, welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you for joining me. A interesting, fascinating conversation we'll have today with Shemeka Michelle and Virgil Walker. Candace Owens tomorrow will release the first episode of what she's calling a docu-series on Erika Kirk. I think it's called The Bride of Charlie. I will play the trailer that came out yesterday and has sparked outrage across the conservative social media influence world, universe. Let's play the trailer.
President Trump says that Kirk has died after he was shot from a nearby building after being shot at Utah Valley University. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead.
The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
I didn't even get to give him a kiss goodbye.
That young man, I forgive him.
Take your time.
Erika Kirk has been named the new CEO of Turning Point USA.
My husband's dead. I'm not trying to be morbid, but he's dead.
It's weird to say excited.
Describes her husband's funeral as the event of the century. Merch, hats.
We have 50,000 plus hat orders.
Nobody knows why she's out there in a glittering pantsuit in a recreated tent that her husband tragically was murdered in, throwing merch out.
Everyone grieves differently, so if someone's acting weird, don't read into that.
Zionists, the Prime Minister of Israel, all lied through their teeth about Charlie Kirk.
Her operation was in Constanta, the epicenter of Romania's trafficking scandal.
We are conversations to have with a 15-year-old. I'm gonna touch your butt.
$8.6 million to their own shell company. What is going on?
We have nothing to hide. My aunt used to tell me, never do something that you don't want on the front page of a newspaper.
That trailer has sparked renewed or new tweets calling Candace Owens demonic, satanic, pure evil. It has sparked a hyperbolic backlash and people demanding if you were friends with Charlie Kirk, you must be outraged and you must speak out. And to some degree, I get if you were friends with Charlie Kirk, I would understand why you would be outraged. Where I kind of raise a pause, a yellow flag is like pure evil, demonic, satanic seems a little bit overdone. It just does. And for everybody to be saying the same thing, if people were coming out saying, hey, Candace Owens needs to stop, this isn't what you should do to a widow, blah, blah, blah. But when everybody's going to these terms of satanic, demonic, and evil, I'm just telling you, it makes me feel like it's overdone, it's too much, and then it's a way of preventing people like me that from asking this question, and because these type of allegations get made against people like me on the left. People like Matt Walsh gets these types of allegations from people on the left about the transgender issue. What they're doing is, by objecting to the transgender issue, by objecting to homosexuality, while objecting to same-sex marriage, that's evil, that's pure evil, that's satanic or whatever. And so one of the main questions, the conversation we'll have here with Virgil and Shemeka, and I'm going to encourage them to push back against me. But as someone that leans conservative myself, I don't like a political identity, but people want to say I lean conservative. Yes, I do, and I get it. I have done shows where we have discussed, debated, taken seriously allegations that Michelle Obama has a penis, that Michelle Obama transitioned, that Michelle Obama is actually Big Mike. I've been in political conversations where people are convinced that Hillary Clinton has had dozen people killed and murdered. It just seems like in the political universe, nothing's off limits. Nothing is off limits. And conservatives, very comfortable cracking jokes, having conversations, looking at content that suggests that Michelle Obama is a man. But now, when a political figure on the right gets attacked, gets really uncomfortable things questioned about them, now it's pure evil, now it's demonic. Are we really being consistent? And this isn't me trying to both sides the argument, because I'm not a both sides guy. I've clearly have chosen a side. But I am a person that will call out hypocrisy. And I try to avoid hypocrisy. And so if Jason Whitlock can put out content questioning the sexuality of Michelle Obama, if he can participate in segments where people have questioned whether the Clintons have murdered people, if he can engage with social media content that suggests that the Obamas murdered their chef, their private chef. Chickens are coming home to roost. This is the culture that's pervasive within politics. Very unfair things get said, get speculated about, get investigated. So, Virgil, Shemeka, welcome into the show. Shemeka, I'm going to start with you first. Where do you come down on all the people before having seen Candace Owens' documentary that are convinced that it's pure evil, that it's satanic, that it's demonic, and we all must rebuke it?
That has always been silly to me, Jason, even before the trailer. I can remember when Lacey Peterson was missing, nobody was saying, "Oh my God, don't suspect Scott." You know, we've seen spouses be involved with the murder or disappearance of the spouse before. This is not unheard of. So people acting as if this is just evil simply because it's someone that you like or you liked her husband. You're not going to get me to believe that I have to think the way that you think about it or that it's evil or demonic. We've seen this happen in investigations for a long time. People who are not involved in the investigation may have their opinion. That's just what it is. So people are upset because Candace, you can visibly see that she has millions of views or millions of followers, and now this is supposed to be somehow different from anybody having an opinion years or decades prior about any other case. To me, this is just what that is. She just happens to have a podcast, and we can actually see how many people are tuning in to her train of thought. But I don't think it's evil. I don't think it's demonic. And you won't gaslight me into thinking I'm in the cult of Candace, because there were things that I saw prior to Candace even dropping one episode after Charlie's death that didn't sit right with me. So for me, people aren't going to get me to turn around or look the other way or pretend like I'm not interested simply because they feel like it's demonic or evil. If you feel like that, don't watch. But you don't have the right to tell what somebody else can do or watch in their home. We're not yelling, hail Satan, worship Satan, harm children. It's an interesting point of view. And after the trailer dropped, I thought the trailer was brilliant.
Virgil, where do you stand on this? Come down.
Yeah, I think there are multiple levels to how and why people are responding in the way they are. I think if the folks who are, stand against TPUSA were never Charlie Kirk fans, were not connected with Erika Kirk in any way, were out and against Erika or against TPUSA or had more to say about Charlie, I don't think this would be the response. I think the issue is many feel this is a Judas moment, right? This is a person in Candace who got her start through Charlie's identifying her, bringing her in, and allowing her to grow her platform using what became TPUSA. And so as that's flourished and gone forward, and they've watched the trajectory, she's benefited from that. Then he dies. Initially, I think the thought was, oh, she's going to do investigative reporting that's directly connected to who Charlie's murderer is. And I think for the most part, while they may not have been happy about it, they allowed it, didn't have much to say. This feels different. This next step feels like a different tact, like a different approach. And what it looks like to me, and I've been pretty open. Folks have called me, reached out to me, asked me for my opinion. I've been very quiet, mainly because my thought was let's allow all of this to play out and let the truth hit, and we'll see where things land. I do feel like where we are now is in a process of character assassination. I feel like what we're doing, what Candace is doing at this point, really looks like a takedown. And the problem is I'm not sure for what purpose or where this ends. I mean, unless she's asserting that Erika is the one who killed Charlie or had Charlie killed. And if so, rather than I don't know how many parts are involved in this series, make your case, make it plain, don't drip things out, pull it all together, and then present it, and then let the chips fall where they may. This just looks opportunist. It feeds a culture that believes it to be entitled to knowing everything. There are a number of things I wrote down because I wanted to have my thoughts together as I approached this topic. I want us to think through it clearly. I want us to think through it biblically. I want us to kind of step back, because I think where we're going at this point crosses a Rubicon. I mean, it jumps the shark, and it really. I think we've really got to examine where culture goes as a result, particularly from a standpoint of conservatism, right? Because that's the lane we're in. We're talking about a battle within a conservative, predominantly conservative culture, conservative political culture, and I think it's time for us to examine it and ask some questions.
Virgil, I'm going to tell you where I think you're on solid ground, and you've given me something to think about. And I just thought of it in real time as you were unpacking that. Like, that this feels different, this is going a different direction. I haven't seen the content, so don't know what she's about to release. But generally speaking, based on the trailer, these types of documentaries generally come out after the courts have made some sort of ruling, the legal process has paid out. It's like Making a Murderer came out long after the guy had been sent to prison, had blah, blah, blah. Like, the courts had made a ruling. There was a bunch of things that went on in the court that you could examine. This is all coming out preemptively. And so this is kind of new ground. You're actually ahead of the judicial system. I can't say, I'm not, because I'm thinking this in real time, I can't say that I've thought it all the way through and I'm going to say, well, this is 1,000% wrong. But this is the first argument that has made me say, okay, I got to marinate. Maybe this is wrong. You're ahead of the criminal justice system, and you're doing like a post-verdict documentary long before, we're probably a year, maybe 2 years out before this ever goes to trial. Right. And we've already got a documentary that, Shemeka, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think that this is the era that we're in. And I believe that if we had something like this, maybe when Kennedy was killed, Martin Luther King was killed, they wouldn't have been able to brush some of that stuff under the rug. So if people feel like what the government is telling us about Charlie Kirk isn't accurate, it's not true, I am glad we're in this era for people to put a different train of thought out there, for people to be able to give their tips or to have a say or to say, look at this, because we know the government will lie about an important person being murdered. That's just what the facts are. They didn't have this ability when Kennedy was killed. They didn't have this ability when Martin Luther King was killed or any other person. We now have this ability. So because we're now in this era, I think it changes the rules a bit. And I think that it puts pressure on those who would be inclined to sweep it under the rug.
Virgil, I want you to hop back in here and unpack a little bit more, respond to what you've heard.
I never like to be in a position to disagree with Shemeka ever. Okay, I just want to, for the record, I just want that to be said. There were mechanisms in place. It wasn't the instantaneous dopamine, adrenaline rush that is social media. But there was media. There were investigative reporters that were available. There were things. It would have been slower, but the process was still in place, and people who had interest in these issues were able to make their case. What we're talking about, and here's what I don't disagree with. I had no problem initially with Candace asking questions. I thought, man, this is great. She's a friend of Charlie's, and she cares about him, has love for him, and in all the appropriate ways. At least that's kind of my thought initially. So let her run her course. Where we are now is at an investigative report, not of the murder, but of an individual who's taken over TPUSA. And we're trying to find her worst moments to amplify in an effort to provide character assassination. I mean, that's where we are. We're not saying, hey, this person did it, and let me show you. I'm going to do my documentary series to show you exactly how and why. Again, while Candace is great at a number of things, she doesn't have a background as an investigative reporter. She doesn't have a journalist background. And again, you can say, hey, she doesn't need those things in order to be effective at what she does. And that's fine. But there are standards that are utilized in these kinds of instances that she's not using. She's using innuendo, things that make her feel a certain way. And, doesn't that feel different? Doesn't that feel weird? And so all of those ideas about the way we feel are allowed to serve as evidence and proof. And that's where I just think we're in territory that has us, and by us, I mean those in conservative circles, particularly those who consume our content, knee-jerk reaction, emotionally reacting to things that we should be more cognizant about, we should be more logical about in our approach. And I just think at this point, we're doing more damage than help.
You've now said a second thing that gives me a different wrinkle. And this is now I can go back to what I said originally, months ago. Or at least 2 months ago or 3 months, whenever it was. This, and I stand by this. She should not be the CEO of TPUSA. That's a mistake, and there is, when you seize control of a political organization as powerful and as money rich as TPUSA is, there is a level of scrutiny that should go along with having that job. And it may not be this level of scrutiny, but there was a way to avoid virtually all scrutiny if you don't seize this position. And her belief would probably, well, I'm the only one that could do it. And I would raise my hand and say, no, you're not. And I'm not saying, I don't say that anyway because I'm not saying that as a suggestion for me, but I'm saying it's like, you're a mother with 2 young children. You're a beauty pageant contestant. And I get it. You were Charlie's wife, but that whoever started McDonald's, let's say it was Ronald McDonald, doesn't mean Martha McDonald should succeed Ronald because, she may not know how to cook hamburgers. That's not her deal, or sell them in a mass way, or whatever. I'm not saying she deserves it, but the hyperbolic, this is demonic, this is evil, and Candace must be destroyed, when I don't hear anybody other than me that has had the courage, balls, stupidity to say, like, what's this woman doing taking over TPUSA? She's got 2 young kids. She's a beauty pageant contestant. There's a level of scrutiny that will come along. You just seized control of one of the most powerful political organizations shortly after your husband was murdered in broad daylight and you have 2 young kids. The natural reaction, if we remove our biases, is like, what is she doing? And why is she doing it? She's got 2 young kids. And you just saw her husband pay the ultimate price. So that's, Virgil, I think you've made you've opened my eyes. I don't even know if it was your point, but you opened my eyes to, like, wow, we're way out ahead of the court system. That's probably a mistake. These documentaries are usually done after the courts have either made a mistake or has been adjudicated. That does feel inappropriate, but it also, seizing this much power is going to cause a reaction and is going to put all of your actions under scrutiny. Virgil?
I don't disagree with that. In fact, I've agreed with you that, man, it'd be better for her to be at home, to stay home with children and not be in the limelight to that degree, not be pushing. And that has nothing to do with a lack of ability or that a beauty pageant person can't do that. There's a lot of qualities that pageants identify and sharpen and mold and provide formation for. So I don't negate any of that. Besides the fact she's very well educated, has a law degree, and much more. So she's not short on talent or ability. I think the focus at this time, basically given what's transpired, should definitely be at home. And you're right, the scrutiny that she's receiving is a part of that process. I just think that at some point the scrutiny, and I'm not sure, let me say this part, I'm not sure, Jason, that had she gone home, that it would have kept her from what's taking place now. Candace could well have been interested in her life story as a result. Candace has gone off after many members of the organization who are not the CEO of the organization. And so it doesn't compute that just because she's taking this role, now she's the target. I don't believe that. I think Candace would have identified whatever she could and done exactly what she's doing right as of right now. But to the point that you made, I don't disagree. There could be a better focus for her. She could well be just a figurehead while there are others around her who are getting the job done on a day-to-day basis. Who knows? You were trying to say something. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'm gonna remove could be. And again, I know I'm Archie Bunker and I'm here to be the bad guy. She's got 2 young kids.
Yeah.
There's a better focus.
Yeah, you and I don't disagree there. I think what would be said by those who I've talked to and know at TPUSA is that this is what Charlie wanted, right? That's what they are going to say. They're going, the response is going to be, she was chosen.
Bill Belichick wants a 25-year-old girlfriend, and so do I.
Right.
We're not right there, Shemeka.
Yeah, this is why I don't back up when people try to paint her as this grieving widow. I mean, hopefully she is grieving, but this isn't what she has portrayed. She put out the videos of her, of course, holding dead hands, but then we see her in a sparkling pantsuit with pyrotechnics, I'm not seeing this grieving widow that you all want me to feel so sorry for and feel like I can't have any type of criticism of. What I have witnessed well before Candace or anyone else said a word, did not sit right with me. From the very first press conference or whatever you want to call it, it didn't sit right with me. And I don't think she should be the CEO of Turning Point. Yes, with young children, they need you and they need your attention. And I felt like this is what Charlie kind of pushed, or this was his platform when it came to family. And so now all of a sudden, these children are raising themselves or with whatever's happening. To be a CEO of a billion-dollar corporation or multi-million-dollar corporation takes a lot of your time, effort, and attention, which is taking that away from the children. So I'm not going to buy into the whole be sorry for her or shut up simply because she's a grieving widow. She is the CEO of Turning Point, and we don't know what information is going to come out. But for me, it doesn't also mean that she couldn't have had some role in Charlie Kirk's murder. So let's examine it. For me, I don't know. We don't know what the information is going to be, but I don't think just because she's a beautiful woman or that Charlie chose her means that she has to be completely innocent. I like the idea of looking into it. I do know that there's crazy people out here that may take it a bit too far, but there are a lot of us that's just interested in the information, interested in the discovery. Something doesn't feel right. We're looking at every avenue, and we're just simply interested in what's taking place. The thought that people are evil or shouldn't watch it or you're disgusting, let's get you fired from your job because you're watching Candace, are you in a cult, don't drink the Kool-Aid, they sound just as silly and irrational as the people they talk about on the left.
Virgil, I'm someone who's made some bad decisions based off of I'm in an arena where I talk a lot about race, and I talk about race and have for 30 years publicly in a way that the mainstream completely objects to. I don't know if I've told this story about when I appeared on Oprah Winfrey's show back in 2007 or 6, whenever it was, during that whole Don Imus deal. But I'm on Oprah, and Ben Chavis is in the audience with, I can't remember who he was sitting next to. He's in the audience. He's participating. I'm on stage, but Ben Chavis, I don't know if he ran the NAACP, worked for the Nation of Islam at some point, but he's in the audience with somebody. Al Sharpton is on via satellite, but Ben Chavis is sitting in like the second, third row of the Oprah Winfrey show, and he's mouthing the words to me, and I'm about to tell you what he was mouthing. Y'all know I hate the N-word, but he used it. We gonna get you, nigga. He's mouthing these words at me repeated. We gonna get you, nigga. He was threatening me on the air, all because I was objecting to, like, hey man, Don Imus is the bad guy, and we got all this rap music denigrating, blah 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 blah. But that was my first indication, like, man, I'm in some deep waters here. This man is sitting in the front row mouthing the words that we gonna get you, nigga. Like, I'm about that. And at this time, Ben Chavis was calling himself some sort of minister. But I repeat this to say, when you enter into certain professions or into politics or in certain discussions, it's a blood sport. And when I see someone running to be involved in politics, and again, this connects to my point about, like, we sit around as conservatives and never object when people are debating whether Michelle Obama has a penis, whether Barack and Michelle had their chef killed, whether Hillary Clinton and all these guys have killed any and everybody. This is the arena of politics. Character assassination, unfair conversations, unfair allegations are standard operating procedure, and that's why I was sitting there. A young wife who's been widowed with, 2 kids, you're going to enter into the political arena, and so everybody running around, demonizing Candace, I get it, but I'm looking at you all like, why didn't y'all tell this woman, stand down? You're entering a blood sport. Charlie was just in it. You just saw him lose his life. I just think there's some inconsistency here. If we can talk about Michelle Obama, every aspect of her, what's hanging between her legs.
Yeah.
But this is the bridge too far?
Yeah, I would just say those are, what's hanging between anyone's legs is off the rim for me. Like, that is not a conversation that I'm going to engage in. And I think each one of us has to kind of do the same. Each one of us has to look at our own lives and examine how much of it we're willing to critique in others. I mean, scripture is clear. You will be judged as you judge others, right? And so we've got to think about those kinds of things. What is it you want judged about you? How do you want to be approached? Are there issues that you would prefer to be off the record? And if so, then make sure that you're utilizing that same equal weight and measure to judge others by. I just think what we're engaged in now really creates the environment where we are more interested in voyeurism than wisdom. Where we're more inclined to want to see what's happening than being wise about what we see, or about how we respond. You got something you want to say? I can see it.
I'm sorry, Butter. I was a tiny bit distracted. Is someone outside the studio talking? Tell them to shut up if they are. Virgil, I'm sorry. It was distracted me. The Shemeka, would you respond to Virgil?
Well, first of all, I would say, well, phew, thank goodness I wrote a book called Keep It Naked and was naked on the front. So people can come at me with whatever. I think I've shown it all figuratively and literally. So I don't have a problem with being judged or people looking at my life. And I feel like if everything is on the up and up, no one else should have a problem either. We're looking into well, not we, of course, I'm not on the team, but I am interested in it, looking into some things, some possibilities. And for me, nothing is off the table. I just think that people are capable of anything, as I've seen over my lifetime. And I'm just not buying into the we shouldn't, or it's too much, it's too far. This is where we are. Things have changed, and I agree with Jason. I watch people every day talk about Michelle being Michael. Did they kill the chef? Has Hillary had dealings with kids in Haiti? We see so much. So for me, this is no different. I know people feel like it's a betrayal of Candace, but Jason would have to tell me right here, right now, if anything ever happened to him and we thought it was suspicious, that he wouldn't want me doing the exact same thing, because I'm telling you, I would. If something happened to him and I thought something nefarious was behind it, I'm going to turn over every stone, because that is the loyalty that I have towards him. So I'm not looking at Candace with a side eye, or this was your friend, how could you do this? I would do the same thing. Of course, I would need a bigger platform for people to care, but for me, it's not off limits.
Virgil, if I'm going to give you the final thought on this, and if there's some sort of, if we could get a more biblical perspective on this, and obviously, again, I'm asking you to aggressively push back against anything that I may have said incorrectly, wrong. We're not here to have a uniformed opinion on this, and I appreciate you bringing the other, because I'm open to any and all of you. You've helped me think this through about the unfairness of, like, hey, let's let the judicial system play out before assassinating someone's character in this manner. But again, I weigh that and measure it against, she stepped into the political arena, it is crazy.
My initial thought is just do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. That's kind of the first thought process that jumps into my brain about it. But again, I also think we need to examine the mirror of God's word against our own lives first. I think Shemeka has done that. You've obviously done that, so you're not afraid to face come what may. You've put all of your stuff in a book, put it out there, and said, "Here's who I am. Come at me." I try to do the best I can to be that forward as well. But man, are there things in my history where I wouldn't want everyone to know on a national platform? Absolutely. I think everyone to some degree has that in them. And I would just, I look at what cost, like at what cost, at what price, for what purpose, right? What's the end goal, right? What is the end goal for Candace? Is there an end goal? Like after we eviscerate Erika, who's next? And why should we stop? Right? We should every person directly or indirectly connected should be examined to the nth degree, and have all kinds of documentaries done about their lives, and with great scrutiny as well. I mean, that would all be fair game. I just think we've got to step back and get to a level of respect and validate what we're saying long before it becomes, evidence, right? Long before we believe that what we're hearing in the way of innuendo, or someone's feeling about something, or they feel a certain way. We've got to have a standard of what is actually evidence, what actually can be proven, before we just land out there with all of the information just for public consumption. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time on Harmony.
How did we end up so divided? Stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God, let your light shine down. What we need more than anything